Welcome to the Fight with Teddy Atlas, presented by Dynamic Striking. I'm Ken Rideout, joined by Hall of Famer Teddy Atlas and COVID Destroyer. How you feeling, Teddy?
Yeah, I feel a lot better, thank God. Most important, my family. My family is all good. The kids, the grandchildren, my daughter, my wife, my son-in-law. Everybody's tough. So they're tougher than me.
You,
So
you immunized them all,
yeah,
whether they liked it or not.
yeah, yeah. I sure did. I'm just thankful they're all good and everybody's feeling better. Still a little tired, but all the stuff is gone. We're past the difficult parts of it, and just feel grateful that everybody's okay, and grateful to the people out there too, Ken, to be honest. All the people out there that heard about it when I mentioned it on the last podcast, and sent their well wishes, their thoughts, their prayers to me and my family, viva the social media, different ways that I still don't understand. But to the podcast, I really can't tell everybody out there how much I appreciate it. To know that you cared about, and that there's so many good people out there that are thinking about you. So anyway, I just want to thank everybody for that, and thank you guys. Thank you, Ken. I know I hurt your back a little bit. You had to carry me.
Hardly.
So thank you.
You showed up every day and played hurt like a true champion. Well, Teddy, we've got a lot of action to cover from this weekend. It was the story of the weekend's probably the good, the bad, and the ugly. And let's jump right into it. Starting on Friday night with the Triple G Kamil Szeremeta fight. I know you've got a lot of opinions on this one, so before I spoil the party, I'm going to turn it over to you. Triple G gets the late stoppage. I was hoping he'd get him out of there earlier. I had the under in the fight. But like I said, I know you've got a lot of thoughts on this one, so hit me. What do you got?
Well, I mean, where do I start? I mean, I don't want some people say, Teddy, you start with the negative, you start with the positive, you start with the in-between. All right, how about just start with the truth? That's always a good place to start. Another fraudulent number one mandatory contender. How did we get to these guys? That's, again, like it or not, the truth is like cod liver oil. Remember you had to, when you were sick, your parents made you take cod liver oil, Ken? You didn't like it. It was nasty. But you know what? It made you feel better at the end. It helped. And the truth, if we can get there, it can make you feel better. It can help. It can help you understand things. And first of all, the way these organizations work, all of them, these, whatever you want to call them, organizations that make a lot of money, that have this power, that rate guys, to get into the top 15, you can now play, you can do business. You got to be in the top 15 rated. And to do that, you got to do kind of like what your father did when you were a kid and you went to a game. And he had paid maybe $10 for the ticket. So it wasn't the best seat, but you got to the game. And you went to the game, and you're at the game. And then all of a sudden, he sees somebody. He sees the right guy, and he shakes hands with him. But you can see that it's one of those different kind of handshakes, because the hand goes and then it slides out, and you just notice something. You notice your dad did something. And then all of a sudden the guy says, follow me. And your seat changes. You start walking towards the front.
You're bringing back so many memories for me of like, hey, buddy, there's 2 seats down there. Anyone going to use those seats? Maybe.
There it is.
Okay,
and
shake my hand.
And memories for all of you, for everybody else, for our fans out there.
I haven't thought about that in ages.
That are following along. Now they are, Ken. And they're following along with us. And hopefully that's why they watch this show. And hopefully why they enjoy this show. And so you're getting closer and closer, and you're saying, wow, my dad got the best seats. Look at this seat. Wow. And the other guy, if you keep watching, his hand, after the handshake, it goes into his pocket. And then he walks away, and you a little shake, and there you are, and you got the seat. Well, that's how it works, Ken. Some things don't change a lot. It's the same thing. The only difference, instead of shaking a guy's hand to give him the payoff, well, you buy an ad. You go and you pay for one of their. You send a donation to one of their programs. They all have programs, different programs, and they're pretty nice, some of them. And you send a check. X goes to the program. Y goes to, well, you could guess where the Y goes. And then, again, it could be advertising. It could be to go to one of their seminars, one of their conventions that they want everybody to go to.
They love a good convention, a good boondoggle.
That's all. And then your guy is in the top 15. And then once you're in the top 15, well, whether you deserve to or not, as long as that currency was good currency, didn't turn out to be made, in your Xerox machine somewhere, right? It's good. Well, you're in the top 15. And then the rules work where first come, first serve. Whoever decides to fight another top 15 guy, they become the mandatory. Yeah, it's that easy. So you're number 15 and you fight number 14 and you're the first ones to say, we're fighting number 14. Well, you become the mandatory. You move into a slot where the winner becomes number 1 or maybe number 2 if you're that low. If you're a little higher, you become the winner of those 2, 6 fighting 9 or whatever. Those 2 guys become the mandatory if they were the first ones to jump in there. And you got a lot of different, funny looking mandatories. Guys that shouldn't have been in the top 15 to begin with. And now they're a mandatory. And some of them you get lucky and some of them are deserving. Most of them aren't. A lot of them aren't. And a lot of them lately haven't been. And Szeremeta for Triple G, I hate to knock the kid from Poland, he's undefeated. But my God, if you look at the guys that he's fought, you know why he's undefeated pretty easily. Because they were the guys that were the ushers that walked you down with your father and gave you that seat and dusted off the seat. That's who those opponents were. Pretty much. That's, excuse me. So you have another case, another reason to watch this show, to at least get educated a little bit in those areas, because sometimes I don't follow social media. So you guys out there, the good people, I hear about it. Thank you. God bless you. You're all good. The ones that hate a little bit, you're just having a bad day. You're having a bad day. I get it. And you're fans, and you're going to say, you only want to hear what you want to hear. But again, it's like taking cod liver oil. Sometimes you need it. I know you don't like it, but you need it sometimes. Because it can make you a little better in certain areas if you wish to be better and to be more knowing of certain things, unless you just don't want to know. But that was a joke. And for me, it's hard to gauge it because I know a lot of the fans, they're going to, I get it. You're going to get your pom-poms on. I wish I had pom-poms, Ken. My daughter, full disclosure, I thought about this last night, and the wonderful thing where you can order, what is that called? Where you can, Amazon, whatever that is. Yeah, you could order. It's something else, and they bring it right to your house. They didn't get here yet. We thought they'd be here before the show. So I got to be honest. You're going to see it, guys. Look forward to down the road. Don't look forward to down the road. But I got pom-poms coming. Real pom-poms. and I think I ordered the silver and red. I think I got the silver and red. And if I had them, I'd be doing them right now, Ken. Pom-poms. Because it's pom-pom time. Because all the fans, I get it, pom-pom. Get your pom-poms. Get your pom-poms out. And you want to go crazy. You want to go nuts. Triple G's back. You know, he looked like Marvelous Marvin Hagler. Whatever. Listen, can we put the pom-poms down just for 1 second and just a little bit, just for a minute? I know you don't want to live where I live. I have to live in a place called Realville. Here. I got ready. I put props, everything up. I got that's where I live. That's where I live, everybody. 100 Realville. Okay? And in Realville, we don't have pom-poms. Okay? We don't have pom-poms. We got street lights so you can see things. You could go outside and you can see what's real. And they're very bright street lights, so you can really see everything that's out there. Everything gets illuminated.
Maybe too bright for some instances.
Yes, because every once in a while we'll get somebody wandering into the neighborhood with dark glasses on. We shoot them out. we tell them, no, you can't wear dark glasses in this neighborhood. You have to leave. You have to leave. You have to take those dark glasses off. You have to see the light. You have to see the light. It's part of the rule of visiting Realville. So in Realville, we see what Szeremeta was, and we look into things in a different perspective with context, where we say, wait a minute, Triple G looked good, but with who? With what? And then we examine it a little further. He looked good. Okay, I'm not taking that away with the pom-pom. I get it. But with a guy that you could do anything you wanted to, Ken, I still look good for a few minutes maybe on a heavy bag.
I was just going to say to you, you should see me hit a heavy bag, Teddy. When it's not hitting me back, everything is perfect and flawless. Punches are flying from everywhere. And that's what it looked like with Triple G.
Sugar Ray Rideout. That's okay. Sugar Ray Rideout. I've seen him, guys. I've seen him. That's what it looks like. But the only thing is, most people don't have Everlast written on their forehead. Usually, if you're really going to get into Realville, you don't want Everlast on the forehead. Not in Realville. So that's number one. And then number two, here's the question for me, because we really do x-ray these things. That's why you watch the show if you watch it. We're going to x-ray it. We're not just going to, again, we're not going to wear the pom-poms as commentators. We're not going to be shills. We're not going to do that. We're gonna look at. We don't worry about getting fired.
That's for sure.
we don't worry about that. We don't have that hanging over our head. We just worry about telling you guys what the truth is and what we know to be the truth from reality, from experience, from knowledge, from behind the scenes. So now, the only question now is, to me, did it become a point where Triple G started to carry him? Because it looked like he started pulling on his punches. He wasn't throwing full, and he's doing anything he wanted, and it almost looked like he was carrying. So the question for me was he trying to get work in now, knowing that he had it his way, and there was no danger? Normally there's danger inside that ring. There was really relatively no danger. Or was he not able to get rid of this guy he should have got rid of? And again, Realville. What? Because at that point, it became a point after 2, 3, 4 rounds, whatever. It became a point where, you know what? Triple G is back to what we want him to be, what the fans want him to be, what we've known him to be. You know, at this point in his career where we're not sure if he is, and we have doubt that he might not be there. But if he is, he's supposed to get rid of this guy. He's supposed to get rid of this guy. He's supposed to run him over like a monster truck would run over a Volkswagen. He's supposed to run him over. I know you do it with good form, but you got to run him over. You got to get rid of him. And the longer the fight went on, and I'm listening to these commentators, and it's like they're at an Elvis concert, you know, shrieking, like making noises, like, oh, oh. I mean, after a while, I was like, wait a minute. Did I miss something here? Maybe I'm at a concert here. Maybe I'm at the old Beatles concert. We went back in the time machine, and the kids are screaming for the Beatles. I didn't see the screaming because, again, the longer it went, I'm like, okay, he looked good, but now it's time to get rid of the guy. And he's still here. And is he carrying him? I can't give a real grade the way I want to give a grade because I don't know if he's carrying him or if he just doesn't have the capacity to really get rid of him the way he should right now, even though he's dominating. So all of those things, I mean, all of those things were in the air. If you're going to look at it with some kind of proper perspective, proper context to what you're looking at. You know what it would be like, Ken? It would be like, for the fans, listen to me, guys. It would be like, just for a second, turn off the fan stuff. You know, the fan is fanatic. I understand. And you're allowed to escape to where you want to escape. But for 1 minute, turn the volume down on it, just for a minute. And imagine you were watching the great Michael Jordan, and you wanted in your mind now to see now if Michael Jordan could come back and be competitive with LeBron. Because that's what this is about. We really want to see if Triple G, if we cut to the chase, we want to see if he could be competitive with Canelo. That's what it's all about. You could go sideways, this way, that, but that's really what it's about at this point in their lives. This point of being a fan of Triple G for the most part. You want to know, can he still beat Canelo? Can he get in there? Can he get that third fight? I know it's, can he be the best? Can he be champion again? But you want to know the way that you really measure it. Your real yardstick, your real thumbnail for measuring it is Canelo. Can he be in there and beat Canelo? Can he still be in those kind of fights? And so if you wanted to do that, and you're doing it, say, with Michael Jordan, the same thing, to see if he could be competitive with LeBron, you wouldn't put him in a one-on-one game with a kid in elementary school, junior high school. You wouldn't do it. But that's what they did. That kid, Szeremeta, all the heart in the world. I give him all the credit in the world. But he was an elementary school guy that was in there with a Harvard graduate. He didn't belong in there. So if Michael Jordan's playing a junior high school guy and he dominates, what are you going to say? He's ready for LeBron? No. You're going to say he beat a junior high school guy. Well, that's all I'm saying, honestly, is that look at who he beat. And if it was Michael Jordan, going back to that example, which I think is a good one, if it was Michael Jordan, if he didn't blow the guy out in 4 minutes and get to the score of whatever the ultimate score to win the game was, if he didn't do it within minutes, you would say, wait a minute, Michael has, we got to think twice about this now. And that's all I'm saying. He should have done it faster, maybe a little cleaner. It shouldn't have went to the point that it went to where the guy, they have to stop him on a stool. I know that, it was a terribly just one-sided fight or fiasco. But those are the elements that I just mentioned are the elements that if you're going to grade something, that's what you get graded on. That's how you grade something. If you put a test in, your teacher's not going to say, you dress nice coming to school today. I'm going to give you an extra 20 points. You know what? You're a nice kid. And I I know that you're a good kid. So I'm going to give you an extra 15 points for that. No, you get graded on what you put on that paper, what you're capable of, what you show. And that's how I'm grading it, from all those elements. And that's the way I saw it. That's the way I saw it. Triple G, you could say, go gaga, get the pom-poms if you want. But look at all aspects of it. Go to Realville just for a minute. And don't wear sunglasses.
Well, one guy that got a dose of Realville was a Triple G promoted fighter, also trained by Jonathan Banks, Ali Akhmedov, in against Carlos Gongora from Ecuador. Both guys undefeated. Gongora clearly brought in to be an opponent, but someone made a clear miscalculation. They brought him in on 3 weeks' notice from Ecuador, allegedly at 190 pounds when he got the call for the fight. Got down in 3 weeks to 168 to make the limit. Ali Akhmedov had him in trouble in the second round, had him on Queer Street, hit him with a couple equilibrium shots, hurt him again maybe in the fifth, but around the eighth round, Gongora wasn't going anywhere and started to turn the tide. And slowly, like to use your analogy, the tide just kept rising. And in the 12th round, Gongora scored a savage knockout, knocked him out clean, uppercut, awesome fight, incredibly entertaining fight. I don't think it was meant to be that entertaining. And this is one of those ones where it's a regular occurrence in the UFC, but my God, what an entertaining, awesome fight. It wasn't even close to the co-main. There were two fights between this and Triple G that could have been two of the most boring fights I've ever seen. But to go from this Akhmedov fight and Gongora fight to those other two was such a contrast. But what an awesome fight. I know you had a chance to watch it. What were your takeaways there?
You hit it on the nail. This is what boxing should be. Two guys with a chance to win. And sometimes the guy you don't think has the chance wins because he always had a chance because he knew how to fight. The southpaw Gongora, he was better technically. Akhmedov, he was physically stronger, bigger, more aggressive, and he got the edge early, as you said. Looked like it was going to be, a wipeout for him, possibly. But when you know how to fight, that's the great savior. That's the great X factor. You're supposed to know how to fight. And Akhmedov, maybe they should spend less time on his physical training and more on his technical training. And again, the truth is the truth, because Gongora had better technical training. He was the more complete fighter. The southpaw, that could cause a problem. I get it. But on top of that, he was better defensively. He was better technically. And to his credit, he never panicked. He never fell apart. He acted like a fighter. He behaved like a fighter when the test came. He was a fighter. He never lost his cool. Never lost his faith. That's what boxing teaches you out there. Never lose your faith, people. Never lose your faith. You could have a bad round. You could get dropped. Don't lose your belief in what you had going in. You believed, stay with that belief. And he didn't let Akhmedov take that belief away from him. It reminded me years ago, 30 years ago or so, Ken, I was in Miami Beach training a fighter. I trained Simon Brown, welterweight champ of the world down there. And but then after that, I went back to Miami Beach, again, 30, 35 years, I don't know how many years ago. And I trained Chris Teofimo, who was super middleweight champ of the world from France. And we were training for a fight there. And while we were down there, we were training the same place I trained Simon Brown, in the great old doesn't exist anymore. It's condominiums now. But in the great old Fifth Avenue gym in Miami Beach, it was the gym where Muhammad Ali came out of, where Angelo Dundee had that gym, and he brought up and he developed Muhammad Ali in his early stages in that gym. So it was a special place to be, historic place to be. And I'm there, and one of the legendary guys from years ago, he fought in the 40s, even the 30s, the 40s. He was a great lightweight champion. He probably sold out Madison Square Garden more than anybody else in the history of the Garden. He was an entertaining fighter. You know that just by me saying that he sold out the Garden so many times. He was a lightweight champion of the world, tough as nails, Bojack. And he was there. He was older now, but he was there. And, that meant something to me, to be able to meet a guy like that from that era, from those great fights. And he fought them all. He fought Bob Montgomery, he fought Ike Williams, some of the greatest lightweights of all time. And we talked one day after one of the workouts. I used to love to talk to these guys. I felt that it was a privilege to be able to talk to them and hear their stories and their history and share it for a minute. And he started telling me, Teddy, when I fought Bob Montgomery, he said, the time that I lost to him, we fought him 4 times. He won 2, he lost 2. Bob Montgomery was a great lightweight champ. And he said, the fight that I fought him, and he's watching me, it was funny, he was watching me train Teofimo. And the reason we got into this conversation was I was telling Teofimo to shorten up the shots a little bit, make them a little more concise. And after the workout, he says, Teddy, when I lost to Bob Montgomery, afterwards, I had to think of why I lost. And I realized why I lost. And the guys from those days put things in very simple terms. He said, I lost because I was doing this while he was doing this. Bang, bingo, bam, right there. Right there. In life, it's that simple sometimes. Sometimes it's not more complicated than that. He was doing things more concise, technically better. Montgomery, punching straighter. And he was getting in between Bojack's wider punches. And so that's what this fight reminded me of. That Gongora was doing this while Akhmedov was doing this. And that was it. At the end of the day, that was it. And a beautifully placed uppercut, as you alluded to, beautifully placed, knowing what punches to throw at the right times, a better array of punches, a better repertoire, more sophisticated, more dimensional. The other guy was one-dimensional. That's what Gongora was. And the funny thing is, in boxing, you can't judge a book by the cover in life. Same thing in boxing. He looked the meeker guy. He looked the less physical guy, right? And he was the less physical guy. But when it came down to it, he was the more physical guy in the areas that matter, where physicality is really judged properly in this way and in a way of using whatever you have physically to the utmost, to the extreme, to the best that you can use it, being taught how to use it. And that gave him the power, even though the other guy was the bigger, stronger guy. So that was a perfect example for all you people out there. Perfect. Learn what you got to learn. It's not just about being the fastest or the strongest, or even the number one in your class. Don't get discouraged. There are other ways to catch up. Yeah, there's other ways to catch up that's available. It's got nothing to do with genetics, nothing to do with who your parents were, how small you were, how you didn't drink enough milk when you were little, whatever. You didn't eat enough meat. You threw the meat in your cuffs of your pants when your parents weren't looking, right? Because you didn't want to eat the hamburger, whatever it was. So, but you can make up for it now. The right attitude, with the right work ethic, with facing things. You can make yourself stronger in other ways here by being disciplined, by being honest with yourself, by facing things that other people avoid. So that's part of what Gongora did, and that's why he, as Ken said so properly, he pulled off the upset.
And probably with all his technical skills, living in Boston, Titletown, is probably what put him over the top there.
Of course. I'm sorry I left that part out. I should have started with that.
From Boston by way of Ecuador. We've adopted him now. He's officially a Bostonian.
Well, of course.
And do you know that I read somewhere, and I don't know if this is accurate. Sorry for the lack of time. I didn't have enough time to fact check this, but I don't even think he had a promoter, Teddy. I think they picked him up. They clearly thought they were getting an opponent. And I read today that he's now signed with Matchroom Boxing, and he picks up a world title for his troubles.
Yeah, good for him.
Good story. That's the other thing I wanted to just quickly say is, I mean, Matchroom is they seem to be taking over in boxing. I mean, they're putting on
that's
good
Eddie
fights.
Hearn. Eddie Hearn out there. That's Eddie Hearn.
Eddie Hearn, and we'll get into a little bit more later. We'll talk about this in detail later. But he had some of the top ranked guys on being interviewed on DAZN broadcast, which is super entertaining, and we'll get to that in a minute. But first, let's get to. Unlike this fight, which on paper looked to be a one-sided mismatch, Canelo was in tough on paper against Liam Smith, Ring Magazine. He had a couple other titles, 102. By all accounts, looked to be a pretty competitive fight. Odds makers had it relatively close in the grand scheme of things. But on fight night, it was anything but close. It was almost another version of a guy just hitting a heavy bag. I mean, Liam Smith coming into the fight was very well-respected, well-regarded. Sorry, Callum Smith, not Liam Smith, his brother. Callum, well-regarded, well-respected. But my God, Canelo, in my view, and I'm curious to hear your opinion on this because that's what everyone really wants to hear, is Canelo, to me, is the pound-for-pound best. I mean, what he did to Smith was just... He humiliated him the whole fight. He took him apart. In the 12th round, it looked like I don't think he broke his arm, but he damaged his tricep, just like wailing on his arms as Smith kept that high guard. And his tricep after the fight was all swollen. His face was punched in. I mean, he did a number on him. Canelo was in complete control. And what struck me one thing that really struck me is Canelo's comfort in the pocket. I mean, he was slipping, bobbing, weaving. It seemed like Smith could have had a hammer in there. There was nothing he could do to Canelo. Canelo had no respect for him. Later in the fight, he was just doing whatever he wanted to. But I'm curious to hear your take. Canelo, I mean, unbelievable performance. Do you think it was more Canelo's performance, or do you think Smith just was way outmatched?
Well, you got to do the job. You know, there's an old saying in the world of competitiveness, or the world of function, of doing things. No matter what the job, you got to get the job done. You still got to do what's got to be done. You know, whether it's a football team out there with a team that they're supposed to be able to run the ball on, you still got to block. You still got to take care of your assignments. You still got to hit the holes. You still got to do what you're supposed to do, even though you're supposed to do it on paper and the opportunities and the advantages are there. You still got to go do it. And he went and did it methodically, broke him down. But again, Realville, we live in Realville. And this should not be compared to the opponent of Triple G. The opponent of Triple G, not knocking the guy, but just to make, again, the proper comparison to get to a strong point right away. It was like being in a store with a mannequin. I mean, instead of with a salesman. I mean, when you go in there, sometimes the mannequins look real. They do. And you get closer and you say, oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were a person. It's a mannequin. So Triple G had a mannequin. Again, tough kid, everything else. You hate to have to go down that road. To make the comparison, to make it clean, to make it clear, Canelo didn't have a mannequin. This guy was a guy who had a world title. I was the one who said on our podcast, that the biggest difference was going to be, one of them was going to be the difference of opposition. I mean, Canelo fought everyone, obviously. Who did this guy fight? he beat George Groves, but see, I never look at those guys over. I'm sorry, I'm not knocking you guys over there, my brothers and sisters from across the pond. But some of them, the European guys, they're just serviceable guys. They're tough. They're serviceable. Murray, good example. Grove, good tough guy. But they're just serviceable guys at a certain level. They're not at that next level. They're not. They're just not. And I never thought George Groves was at a world caliber level. So when they say, well, he beat George Grove, first of all, George Grove had one leg in the shadows of his career. He was a little used up. But I never thought he was that level of a guy. So the guys they're beating over there are a little different than sometimes the caliber that we want to really be able to judge a guy on. And so I had my real doubts about just changing the level of competition. Just like when you watch, these games, whether it's college football, college basketball, whatever, you see these teams that are good, and they're good. They're beating everybody. But then they go to the next level to play Alabama and to play Ohio State and Clemson. And then all of a sudden you say, whoa, whoa.
Two perfect examples this weekend. Notre Dame getting blown out by Clemson and Florida getting destroyed by Alabama, although Florida made a late surge. But those guys, like those teams, Clemson and
Florida,
Alabama.
I think Florida's a top-level team, at least definitely offensively. I really do. I think that was a hell of a game. But I'm just saying that you get to that different level. And he hadn't been in that level, Smith. And then, so that was my big thing handicapping it for the good people out there, was saying, look, big difference in level of competition here. Big difference. The guy has the physical assets. The guy's got the belief, The guy's got the belief. Smith being the guy, undefeated, world champion. He's got all that, but reality can hit you fast. And he's 6'3". As I said, he's got good length. He fundamentally knows what he's doing, but it's a matter of being able to execute at that level. And he wasn't able. He wasn't able to take those physical. He wasn't able to make those physical assets that he had, that we all thought would give him a chance, maybe a little bit, even though I didn't think it was going to be competitive. But we all were hoping it would make it competitive because of those physical assets. But that was against a different level of opposition on a different stage. He didn't have the ability to take those physical assets, the length, the height. He could punch a little bit. He technically knew what he was doing. He didn't have the ability to execute those things on this stage with this opponent at this level. He didn't have the ability to make that equate into what it looked like on film with other guys. That's the best way to put it. Smith was not, but he's still a different level than the guy that's Triple G fought. He's a guy that still will be able to win fights. He's a guy that he hung on there, showed a lot of heart. He did land a couple of shots I took notice of because I want to see everything. He landed a few shots on Canelo. Canelo's got a great chin. If he landed those shots on lesser guys, he would have affected them. And he did. He landed a couple good shots. But Canelo is the full package. He's got the belief. He's technically gotten better. He's got the talent. He's got the, he obviously has the experience with top guys. So he knows that he can always win at that level. Smith went in there not knowing. And that's a big thing not to know. And again, he wasn't able to use those physical attributes that we could look at on paper, on film with other guys. He wasn't able to put them to play on the playing field that he was now on. And that's the credit to Canelo. And so, but again, I'm repeating myself. Do not think that this guy was a mannequin. He wasn't. This guy was legitimate in the realm that he was legitimate, that he could beat certain guys. He just didn't belong in this realm. But there was much more to him than he. Canelo was in more of a real fight by light years in comparison to what Triple G was in. Because if Canelo didn't do what he was supposed to do, he could get caught. The other guy could do certain things. There was something to overcome for Canelo, and he overcame it quickly. But there was really nothing to overcome, really. Honestly, you could make a lot of mistakes if you were Triple G that night, and you still could survive it. You still could be okay. And that's the truth. And that's the difference. Having said that, I knew the fight was over in the first round, and I started tweeting out there. And I said early on, this is going to be an awful long fight because the one thing that's not supposed to happen just happened. Canelo got inside with the much taller, longer guy too easy. Just too easy. Too easy. Way too easy. Like back in the days when the great Will Chamberlain was playing basketball, and he was the biggest man in basketball, Ken. And in the game, if you were able to lob the ball into him without it being knocked away, without it being blocked, without it being some deterrent to get the ball into him, you knew it was going to be a long night. You knew you weren't going to win. And because you couldn't let him get the ball underneath the basket, being a bigger guy like that. Well, the same thing here. Soon as I saw Canelo walk in, so easy, I said, oh, forget it. Fight's over. I know we got to keep going down the road. Fight's over. You can't let him get in. The one thing that he's got to do is keep him outside, make him pay a price to get in. And he wasn't able to do that. I think he was frozen a little bit. I think it's Canelo. I think it's a combination of those things. Again, you want the X-ray machine? I'll give you the X-ray machine. And to the Canelo fans out there, yeah, he looked great. But the X-ray machine, the CAT scan, Canelo was patient. He was all the things you want to be, but maybe a little too patient after a couple rounds, to the point where he may have, it didn't matter, but he may have allowed Smith to start to believe at least he could exist. He could stay. He could survive. He could belong a little bit. And where if he would have pushed the pedal to the metal a little sooner, he might have actually stopped Smith before Smith gained a little confidence or started to believe that I can at least exist. Where when he wasn't sure if he could do that early, if he would have pushed the pedal to the metal, put the gas on a little, he might have got rid of Smith a little earlier. But at the end of the day, dominant performance. And also just, I have to be fair. I was saying when they were going crazy over Triple G, like kids at a Beatles concert. I mean, can you calm down a little bit? Just a little tiny bit, please. When I don't know. When Canelo did what you're supposed to do, got away from a punch. And you go, wow, my God, look at that defense. Look at that. I mean, it wasn't exactly Pernell Whitaker. It wasn't exactly Floyd Mayweather, dealing with Roberto Duran, throwing combinations or something like that. Really, not for nothing. There were single shots, sometimes two shots. Okay, he got away from most of them. Not all of them, but most of them. But please, he's supposed to get away from them. That, again, put it in context a little bit. I know it's hard. I know, but I got to be here. I got to be, okay? Come back to 100 Real Phil. Visit 100 every once in a while. Just calm down just a little bit, really. But because it wasn't Marvin Hagler, like I said earlier, throwing punches at him. So, yeah, he got away, yeah, but please, that giddiness, come on, oh my God, you lose your credibility after a while.
Who wasn't giddy was on the call was Demetrius Andrade. They went to him for a minute, and he said, contrary to what all the fanfare from the other announcers was, Andre goes, well, clearly Smith isn't here to win. Deadpan. They were all kind of like, what the hell are you talking about? He's like, he's not doing anything to win this fight. He doesn't have anything that's threatening. He can't win the fight. He doesn't want to win the fight. He's not here to win. And I thought it was just such a stark contrast to the commentary that was going on prior to him, and they immediately got away from him.
He does. Listen, I don't completely agree. Early on, maybe you're not sure about it. You could start to go down that road a little bit early on, that he's frozen. The lights froze him. Maybe you could say that early on, to fairness. But then as the fight went on, and he was trying the best he could try and the best that he could do at that point. So that I would disagree at that point. But let's remember now, everybody's got a different perspective. Everyone's got a different agenda, right? Everyone's got different incentives. These guys are getting paid to say certain things on the air. He's not getting paid. His thing, Andre, is he wants to fight with Canelo. Canelo's the golden goose. So let's look at it again. That's here one more time. Okay. That's Realville, and the real incentive for Andre to say that is because he's looking for the fight. He's looking for some light to go on him. Yeah, it's a business for him. He wants to fight the golden goose and make that kind of money. I can't blame him.
I liked hearing the contrast, though. I liked hearing his.
Yeah, I got you, Ken, and yeah, and but again, Canelo. He looked good. One thing I think he did show for me, he's not in the same stratosphere anymore with Triple G. I know that's going to hurt a lot of the fans again out there, but I'm just saying right now he's separated himself a little bit. He's at a higher stratosphere than Triple G. Triple G is older. We know that. I don't know how much he's lost from those tough fights that he's taken. He had 400 amateur fights. I don't know, because you couldn't really judge from the last fight. But I don't know. But I do know, what I do know is that Triple G is not in the same hemisphere of ability at this point in his life. At this point of his career, he's not at the same place of capability that Canelo is. He doesn't have as much left right now. I mean, maybe he gets another fight and things change. Maybe. But right now, I wouldn't be putting him in there with Triple G. And I wouldn't be putting Triple G in there with Canelo. And listen, Triple G right now, again, Realville. I think that I wouldn't make him a huge automatic favorite the way you might have one day at all now with a Charlo or with an Andre. Well, Andre's a very difficult style. I don't think anyone wants to fight him because of his style, and you can't get paid a lot of money with him because his style is not the most exciting, but it's tough. It's effective. I don't know if you could just say, hey, Triple G wins with, again, whether it's Charlo or whether it's Andre or, that kind of talent at the top of the division. I don't know. I know the fight that they all want is the big one with Triple G and Canelo. But I don't think Canelo wants that, because I think he's kind of got the attitude, been there, done that, moved on, and he's in a good place. He's at a place where he just won another belt at 168 pounds, got another division, he's doing all these things. And at 168 pounds, he found a good niche. He found a good, comfortable place where he feels strong, he looked great, and he put all that muscle on. I don't think he wants to take it. It could be detrimental. It's not easy. I don't think he wants to take that muscle off. I know he could do it, and he's still young enough to do it, but I don't know that he wants to take that muscle off from 168 and drop down to 160. And And especially when there's so many opportunities where, I got to say this the right way, I don't want to hurt people's feelings, but where honestly there's easy fights for him that are attached to belts that people put significance in. Whether it's a Plant, who's a 168-pound champ, or Saunders. I I don't think they're the threats. They got the belt, but they're not the danger that could be out there with other fights. And I think he realizes that. I think he's smart, Canelo and his people. And they say, hey, we could get a belt. We could consolidate all the belts. We could fight those guys I just mentioned. And we should win those fights. I'm not going to say handily, but without too much threat. And maybe the best guy there, the most competitive one there, might be Benavidez, who maybe is the most dangerous. He's not as good technically as the two guys I mentioned, but he's better physically. He's a big, strong guy. But even there, Canelo's got a big edge because he's so less experienced and he's raw. He's a big, strong, raw guy. He's still got a little caveman in him. And, Canelo knows how to beat cavemen, you take their club away, right? And you beat the caveman. So I think that fight's not, for the people that are still waiting for that ship to come back to harbor for Triple G and Canelo, I think that ship may have sailed.
Well, one guy you didn't mention is the WBC mandatory in Avni Yildirim, who they're talking about Canelo fighting in February. I mean, I guess the WBC might have a bloodlust if they want to put this kid in with Canelo, because I can't even imagine this going past 3 rounds. So they're talking about that in February, and then a really big fight in May with one of the guys that you mentioned earlier. But speaking about, I only mentioned that because we talked earlier about the mandatories, and it would be, that's not a fight anyone wants to see. And if I were on Yildirim's team, I wouldn't want to see that either. You might want to see the payday, but that's a dangerous fight, physically dangerous for this kid.
Yeah, again, it's part of the business. They're gonna take advantage of what the business allows them to, and take an easy one, take a layup, take a slam dunk, and get paid a payday. I mean, that's part of the business. You want to make money. You want to do it with the least risk. The fans don't want that. We don't want that. But that's part of the reality. And look, where people say I'm very harsh, I'll show you how that I'm not. How I do look evenly at everything the best I can. You look at Duke in basketball, right? You look at North Carolina. You look at Kansas. You look at Gonzaga, all the top teams in basketball, in college basketball, if you're a college basketball fan. Well, every once in a while, they play Prairie View.
Yeah.
Or they play, North Dakota State, or whatever.
The only difference is Prairie View isn't going to get punched in the face repeatedly.
Well, no, it's true, but it's going to be a blowout. It's going to be a 40-point game, a 50-point game. Prairie View is going to get paid for television appearance, where it's going to help their program. And, so you're going to have the organizations are going to help their programs. They're still going to get a sanctioning fee. They're going to get paid, and it's business when it's allowed. The thing that people should wise up to now with some of these fraudulent, as we pointed out, I think the proper way with all the evidence, people should wise up to these fraudulent mandatories and say, hey, I'm not participating. That's the great thing, that you still have the power. Just like in this country, if you don't like what the politicians are doing, you still got the power to vote. And that's, you still got the power to vote as a fan by not turning that TV on, by turning it off. That's your vote.
Speaking of, the Zone has picked up their game considerably since the beginning of COVID. They were nice enough to have some of the other networks' fighters on the on the Canelo broadcast, starting with Errol Spence. They did a pretty lengthy, like 4 or 5 minute interview with Errol Spence, during which he mentioned that he didn't seem that interested. Now this could be just posturing in terms of negotiating the potential fight with Errol Spence, which is the only fight anyone wants to see him or Terrence Crawford in. Terrence Crawford and Errol Spence is what I meant. So it was just interesting to see the Zone actually interview. You'll never see Top Rank interview a Matchroom guy or a PBC guy. They very rarely even acknowledge the other fighters. But so Errol Spence during the interview said that, he wasn't that bothered if the Crawford fight doesn't happen, and that he thought it should be 60-40, maybe 70-30 in his favor, that he was by far the A side. Just curious if you noticed that and if you had any thoughts on it.
Yeah, no, of course I noticed it. And I understand the fans out there. Some of them are going to say that by doing that, maybe he doesn't want the fight because he's going to make it difficult. Fans on Crawford's side are probably going to say, hey, he's that much instead of 50-50, then maybe he doesn't want the fight. And then he mentioned, of course, and before he got off, he mentioned that he liked to fight Canelo. So that gives even more fuel to the fire, that maybe he doesn't want the Crawford fight, or he doesn't think it could be made when he wants it to be made, and he's looking at his options and he's trying to build those options and talking about a Canelo super fight where he could retire if he could get that fight. Canelo's too big for him, but if you start playing with it and you start talking about it long enough, the fans will start believing it, and start saying, oh, I walk around at 160 or whatever. They start saying that. I crunch down to welterweight. I'm a huge welterweight. I could easily fight at middleweight. Then all of a sudden, who knows? You could get, some people could start to buy into it, that could be a feasible fight. That could be a fight. And then you forget about Crawford. So he's doing business a little bit there. He's looking out for himself. Who knows who else is advising him in that direction. And listen, ultimately, at the end of the day, Ken, Crawford's not free right now, really. Well, really, if you're going to be fair, neither one of them are free to fight each other because, Spence is with Heyman and PPC, and Crawford is with Top Rank and ESPN. And, I don't know if the fans know this, but Heyman and Aram, they don't like each other at all. Maybe hate might be fair. I don't know. But for that fight to happen, it would have to be such an astronomical fight for the both promoters to say that they would allow them to fight each other without having full control, where they could make enough money, where if they lost the fight, it'd still pay off for them. Kind of like a Pacquiao-Mayweather scenario, where there was so much money in the universe that you couldn't say no to it. Either that, or it's more on Crawford's side, I guess, because he's got X amount of months left on a contract with Top Rank. The last one that he signed, where he got paid extra money to renew the contract, and that's going to run out sometime in 2021. And whether it's 7 months, 8 months, 9 months, whatever it is, he would have to wait, it seems, for that to run out, where he could walk across the street to PPC, make a deal with Heyman, where one of the fights in part of that deal would obviously be the Spence fight. So right now, that's pretty much where it is.
Yeah, the other interview that the Zone did with a top fighter, which had to be wrangling Top Rank, was Teofimo Lopez did an interview with one of the guys over there, and again emphasized he was the A++ side now that he's beat Lomachenko, and it'd be interesting to see what happens. I mean, the fight that everyone wants to see there is Teofimo Lopez and Devin Haney.
Yeah, well, Teofimo has a smart manager. He's got a guy named McWaters, and I think I'm saying his name right. And a good man, actually, a guy that's come into the business, and he's learned the business, and he's got a pretty good stable of fighters. He's done a good job with Lopez, and I don't know that that his connections with Lopez, his father's involved, of course, his manager, McWaters, whether or not they're thrilled with Top Rank or not. But I know that McWaters is a smart guy. I know he's a forward-thinking guy where he thinks a little bit like back in the day with Mayweather and even De La Hoya, where De La Hoya paved the way for, thinking, hey, why do I need a promoter? Why do I need to give all this money to a promoter when I'm a star now? It's not like anyone has to sell me anymore. I could do my own promotions and keep all the money. And, Mayweather realized that, and Mayweather did that, and he made astronomical money. And Lopez and his people, McWaters, might be thinking the same thing. I'm sure they are, to be quite honest, where they're thinking, hey, why don't we just start our own enterprise? Why don't we start our own promotional company? Why do we need to have Top Rank when we're at this point of stardom now? Why do we need Top Rank to be taking part of the pie that they're taking? So I'm sure that some of that thinking is in there. What it's going to manifest to, I don't know. It might not manifest into anything other than them getting maybe some bonus money to juice up a few the pots there for them now that they're a big star, for them to stay over there. I don't know, but those are all part of the possible scenarios.
Well, speaking of promoters, we've got a new super promoter on the boxing scene, saying nothing of his boxing skills, but Jake Paul calls out Conor McGregor with some viral videos. I think you've had a chance to see them, but talk about a new heel in wrestling parlance. This guy is like... He is like getting a lot of attention. He said McGregor's 0-1 as a boxer, and he's 2-0. Now, granted, he's beaten like two amateur boxers, but curious to hear your thoughts on this one.
No, and listen, just guys trying to use their stardom in their own place to catapult it, to leapfrog it into another place to make big money. Being smart, ingenuity, taking advantage of the landscape, the world that it is right now, 2020. He's got 40 million followers. I guess if you got 20 million, 40 million, what's the difference? Whatever it is, I guess when you got that many followers, Ken, you could talk.
Yeah,
you could talk, and you can do more than talk. You can say, hey, I got 40 million people that'll buy this. Let's make it happen. And you know what? People have done things crazier for less money. And when there's that much money, right, that's available, that's possible, he's got the power, and he did it with video games, whatever he did it with, I don't even know. But whatever he did it with, being out there, there was a plan, there was initiative. He executed that plan. He took advantage of what the landscape, what the environment would allow him to take advantage of. And he deserves credit for putting himself in that position. The rest is up to, again, it's up to the buyer. He got himself in a position to be a seller. Now it's up to the buyer. Are there enough buyers out there? And if there's enough buyers out there, and it seems like there are with the environment nowadays, where people they want to go into La La Land. They want to go into, into this place, this realm, where it's a fun realm to go into, to visit. That you could say that someday you're playing video games, and the next thing you know, you're a world-renowned figure because you got 20 million followers. That you now have escaped your fence that seemed to be around the limitations of what you could do. All of a sudden, there are no limitations. I'm spaceman. I can do all these things that I never imagined I could do. Paul does it. I could do it. He's my guy. I could take the trip with him. I could go to fantasy land with him. And it's not even fantasy land anymore. Now I'm in the ring with guys that have been fighting for 20 years and that built themselves up and that had to take all that risk. And I didn't have to do that. And here I am. I'm Who's better than me? Look, I'm laughing at all you guys. You made fun of me, and look where I am. So I think there's a lot of that going on, and again, as long as there's a door to enter, to go to that place, that fantasy land, and the fans could go with them. You know what? It's a door they want to open. It's another door. And they want quick entertainment. They want to believe that they're in a special time, that they're attached to their guys. You got to remember, these internet guys, these kids that are watching this, that are following it, that's their guy. That's their guy. Just like when we were young and we had baseball cards. Oh, my God, what a difference. We had baseball cards, and we had Mickey Mantle, and we had Willie Mays and Hank Aaron. And, those were our guys. And we would flip for them. We would flip cards for them to try to win them in between class when our teachers weren't yelling at us, when our teachers didn't know what we were doing. There goes my fax machine. See, all right, let me turn it off. Fax machine off. See, I'm in my world. This is it's still on. All right, wait a minute. There it is. That's Teddy's world, where the fax machine still exists. See, I wish I could bring that back. I wish that there could be a market for people that are better than anybody else on their fax machine. that they could do more faxes than anybody else per minute. That I could spit them out. And I could spit them out all over the universe, in all kinds of different hemispheres, all over the place. And there could be a contest. And I could be the king of faxes. But the king of internets right now, of being able to do that, Paul is that guy. And again, he's able right now to be able to take that leap into a different world. A world that, like I said, he didn't have to spend 20 years to have the right to get in a ring in front of millions of people and box. He's going to pick a 43-year-old guy with his backing, again, with all of his followers, where he's going to transcend where he was. And he's going to put hope out there to all the people that might be bored with what they're doing, to say, hey, I can transcend from this place to this place. I can do that too. I can be part of that. And we had our day, like I said, this is their guy. Our guys were the Willie Mays and all those guys, and we flipped the cards and we won the cards and we took them home and we put them away. And we said, oh man, I'm going to trade. Maybe I could trade this guy. I could trade 4 of these guys for 1 Willie Mays. I'm going to go to school tomorrow and that's what I'm going to do. That's that. Well, now it's not done with baseball cards. Now it's done with the people out there, or the internet guys that can get all these followers. And you know what? It's a lot easier to be attached to them than it is to Willie Mays. It is. You can be attached to them on the internet, in cyberspace. You can connect to them. We couldn't connect to our guys. We had to do it through baseball cards. We had to do it through, just thinking about it and imagining that, wow, we know Willie Mays. We have his card. Look, it's on my windowsill. Look, there it is. Well, they got him on their computer. They got their guy on their computer. That's their guy. And I get it. I understand it. That's their guy, their time, this time. And guess what? There's a lot of people out there that understand the market for this. They understand this, the money. And they are, you could say they're exploiting it, whatever you want to say, but they're doing what people do. They're taking advantage of it, making moolah.
Well, let's talk about the real king of promotion, and that's Dana White and the UFC. Big card this weekend, round out to wrap up 2020. Awesome year for the UFC. I mean, they really did a good job. Let's talk about for us Marlon Vera and Jose Aldo. Jose Aldo coming off 3 losses to probably 3 of the best guys in the world in his weight class. And Marlon Vera, who's steady, just two super elite guys, and my God, did they bring the heat. Awesome fight. Aldo gets the win, 2-1. He won the first and third on all cards and lost the second on all three cards. I know you had a chance to watch it. What were your thoughts?
My thoughts was, as always, I have nothing but admiration for these guys, total respect for these guys. It was a chess match on the mat. Um, as they grappled for edges, and striking was terrific with combinations. You know, when it was striking, Aldo was unbelievable with combinations, his body punching, throwing a left hook, trying to catch the liver. I even sent a tweet out during the fight that if Aldo could move that left hook about 2 inches over to the right, he would land it on the liver. And maybe that would have a greater impact on Vera. But then I also sent out a tweet, Ken, where these guys are so tough that the way they look at livers, the way they differentiate with anything mentioning a liver, probably the only thing they would think of would be, do you want to have it with onions or without onions? You know, when you grill it, because these guys throw it out the window as far as what should affect you and what affects other people. They find a way to transcend that, to just blot that out. You know, it's pretty amazing. It's like when you get surgery and they blot out the nerves. You know, you stay conscious, but they do, I forget the procedure that's called.
Anesthesiologist?
Yeah, and instead of putting you under with the anesthesia, what they do sometimes is they do a what is it called?
A nerve blocker?
Yeah, nerve block. There it is. I knew you guys. You went to college and all that. You guys are like this far away from being biochemists. Well, the internet helped, but you guys are like this far away from being like biochemists, like breaking molecules down. Well, at least in my world, and compared to what I am. But these guys, it's like that almost. Like they just put a nerve block on this, and they don't feel anything because they don't allow anything to deter them from their mission, which is to get to where they have to go, wherever that happens to be. And if it becomes a further place, guess what? We're going to go further. And that's what's great about these guys. And so Aldo was doing some great striking. Vera, I felt like Vera would have been served in a longer fight where he needed a little more time to try to wear down the legendary Aldo and the older Aldo, to try to maybe wear him down a little bit and wear him out maybe with more grappling as the later rounds would go on. But it was a 3-round fight, 3 5-minute rounds, which is still extraordinary. And I really enjoyed the jiu-jitsu. Usually I'm enjoying the striking. I mean, that's my world. I'm looking at that, and I'm looking at the intricacies and in the similarities where, yeah, they're both tough, but the guy who's a little bit more smarter, he's going to have the edge. It's always there. It's always in the air and part of the deal. And this time I found myself entranced, fascinated with them being on the mat for some reason. I really did, Ken. Where the jiu-jitsu and the grappling, I'm watching them mount each other, get the legs around, get position, keep the back away from the fence. And I'm watching them saying, wow, this is chess on the board, on the floor. And instead of using pawns, they're using just rooks and knights. just the rooks and knights, all the big guys, strong, the big artillery. But it's so fragile because one wrong move, you don't get your leg in the right place. The guy gets his arm underneath here. One wrong move, bang. That really, I get excited thinking about it again. And I just appreciate so much. And I hope that I properly served these guys by giving my thoughts on it. I really did. I really enjoyed it. And as you just touched on, they've been doing it right for a long time, those guys. And there was another fight, too. I'll let you bring up that other fight.
Yep, main event, Stephen Thompson versus Jeff Neal. Stephen Thompson, before the fight, went out of his way on Errol Hawani's show to say he's not a gatekeeper, which you could have easily put him into that category because he's had 2 title shots, lost them both. Jeff Neal, young up-and-coming guy. So they met up 5 rounds in a main event fight. Is always 5 rounds on the UFC along with title fights. And Stephen Thompson won all 5 rounds. Every time Neal got close, it looked like Stephen Thompson just hit him with such quick, hard combinations. And then he would use footwork to step around before Jeff Neal could answer. So he was lighting him up with combinations, then moving off and getting in position. So Jeff Neal just could never get off. And by the way, Stephen Thompson's a legendary, nice guy. Both guys were complete gentlemen. That was a fun one to watch, but a complete domination from Stephen Thompson.
Yeah, Thompson had a good game plan. He had a good fight plan. It didn't just happen. He didn't just win because he was bigger, he was longer, he was taller. But it didn't win just because of that. It won because of the way he executed, because of the plan that he had. And I appreciated that right away. And I appreciated Neal, how tough he was, but he was one-dimensional. He was a southpaw, smaller, shorter guy, and he wanted to get in. He knew that he had to, if he's going to stay on the outside, there was going to be distance between the two. He was going to lose, just like if I call a fight with the styles. Styles make fights. Styles made this fight, where in commonality with boxing, there's a lot in common, and like I say all the time, with these 2 sports. And Neal had to get close, and he was looking to get close. He was walking in. The problem was he was coming in a one-dimensional way, predictable way. And again, to the credit of Thompson, he had the right fight plan. He knew what he had to be prepared for. He was tall, he was long, he kept him on the outside. He pot-shotted Neal as he walked in. One of the things that hurt Neal, really hurt him, was he didn't come in behind the jab. If he came in, like I say on ESPN when I was calling the fights, he needed to put bugs on the windshield of Thompson, where he blurred his vision, where he made it hard for him to pick him up coming in. If he came in behind that southpaw jab, it would have made it a lot harder for Thompson to pick him off coming in, to machine gun him coming in, to pot shot him coming in. But he didn't. He just walked in for the most part. And in spots towards the end, he used his jab and it made a difference. He didn't do it consistently enough. And Thompson was able to control the outside, use kicks, use his length with striking to get to Neal before Neal could get to him, quite frankly, and to keep Neal from getting into the wheelhouse that he needed to get in, which was close to do damage. When he did get close on the fence every once in a while, I thought that maybe Neal could have dug some short body shots in there, done a little bit more on the legs. I know you did some because you made a good point. Thompson was limping at the end. His legs were all swollen up. But I thought, just like in a fight, if you're fighting a guy, Thompson knew what he was fighting. Aggressive guy, strong guy, good striker, good puncher. He couldn't let him get close. So he used his legs, his wheels to keep him off balance, to control the outside. And he did. Neal needed to understand what he had in front of him a little better, that he had a guy that's going to move and do all those things. Well, you got to take the air out of the tires. You got to do something about those wheels, because those wheels are going to win the fight for him if you let them keep air in them. So I was surprised I didn't see more leg kickouts from Neal. A little more leg kickouts. Take those legs away. Take some air out of the tires and some more body work. Again, it wasn't easy to get close to the body because Thompson was doing a good job of controlling range with his length and with his kicks and everything else, and keeping separation. So there was a risk to get close enough to be able to go to the body. But at least the leg kicks, I thought there could have been more leg kicks from Neal. I'm not trying to be a UFC expert, but I know fighting, I know combat, I know what I know. And obviously what my eyes are telling me, and I understand the parameters of both sports, I understand the idea of both sports, what it is. It's to take away the other guy's strength and find a way to use your strength. So I have fax machines and I have phones. Just so anybody out there doesn't think I still have a house phone. Yeah, I understand the 21st century, we're using cell phones, but it's good to have a house phone. You never know, every once in a while. So I just give a lot of credit to both guys for showing what they always show, which is that miraculous heart and determination that these guys possess, just like top fighters in boxing. Um, they showed all the time. At the end of the day, again, Thompson had a great plan. He consistently executed, moving, punching, kicking, using the ring. I thought also Neal should have cut the ring down, Ken, where he was following him around, just like in my sport in boxing, where he should have went parallel and he should have cut the ring down a little bit. And he did it in one round, right towards the end of the round for you UFC guys that watched the fight. Do you remember that spot where he cut the ring down, he closed it off, and he did. He was successful. But it was too late. It was too late in the round. He should have done it, I thought, earlier in the rounds, cutting the ring down and shrinking that octagon a little bit. Thompson did a great job again, switching stances from orthodox southpaw, using the ring. Basically kept Neal one step behind him all night long. I think that's it. The only other thing I would add is you touched on it before, Ken, and I sent a tweet out, but it was just a great way to end the year for UFC. You know, kudos to Dana White and his army of warriors. You know, he was the first, really, if we're going to give proper credit here. He was the first one during the pandemic, Dana White and his company. He did it responsibly. First one to bring fighting back, where he did it responsibly, looking out for everyone's health by finding a formula that made sense with the testing and everything else. And also, he looked out for his product and the fans by doing what he always does, making real fights, competitive matches. Boxing could learn from him. And it did copy what he did. Again, if you're going to give proper credit, it did copy what he did with how he was able to, again, safely create an environment for the shows. They just missed the boat. Boxing missed the boat on the part of putting competitive fights consistently in the ring. When they did come back and find a formula in a bubble, to do fights where you're looking out for the safety and the health of everybody involved, but they didn't put the competitive fights on in a consistent way, the way UFC did. UFC just put competitive fights consistently in that octagon. And that's why their product has grown. That's why their company has grown. That's why their ratings are top right now. And again, the fight fans out there, for me to point it out, don't get mad at me. Don't kill the messenger. Go get mad at the people that are doing it, that are allowing non-competitive fights to be made in boxing. Because nobody wants more competitive fights in boxing than I do. Nobody. But the ones that have done it, for the most part, on a regular basis, has been Dana White and his group of warriors.
Yep, that's right. I think they had a record pay-per-view year this year in terms of revenue as well. But Teddy, thanks for doing this. We've got one more show for you guys next week. We're going to do a breakdown of the Luke Campbell versus King Ryan Garcia fight on January 3rd. So look out for that one next week. I hope everyone has a wonderful Christmas.
Can I mention one thing before you go away?
Of course.
Speaking of Christmas, I think it's a great segue. If you guys are readers out there, you want to buy. Because of you people, we're popular because of you guys. And I hope we continue to do what we need to do in the new year. We will always try to continue to keep your confidence that we're a place to go to hear what some people don't want to say, because maybe they have an agenda where if they say it, It's not good for their business. The only thing that's good for our business is telling you the truth. That's the only thing that's good. So it's a simple formula for us. And we appreciate that you guys have been there because there's no reason to do it without you. So that's part of what I want to say to everybody. And have a great New Year and all that, and great holidays, Christmas, and be safe and love each other and appreciate each other. As, like I say, we appreciate our families. That's where it starts. We appreciate you guys. And we had a show where we had Jim Gray, a friend of mine, come on. He's a very big celebrity out there, and obviously in the entertainment and sports world of being a commentator. And he put a book out, and he came on, and we helped promote the book, talking to the greats, talking to the goats, I think was the name of his book. And we had it on one of our episodes, and hopefully you guys enjoyed it with some great stories about Tyson, different guys in there. So we're not going to do that. I don't know that we're getting asked, again, because of our popularity, because of you guys, we're getting asked by a lot of different authors to promote their book. And we're not really at the point where we're always going to have them on the way we did with Jim. We will sometimes when we think that it makes sense, but we will from time to time put a mention of a book that I think, especially in boxing, obviously, that is worth mentioning, to put it out there, to do a favor for the guys because they're good guys, because the author is a guy that respects the sport. That's the way I look at it, that he's a guy that respects the sport, that that properly cares about the sport, writes about the sport, because it's important to write about this sport for people to know about the greatness of the sport. So writers, if you get legitimate ones, good ones, ones that are conscientious, that do their work, it's important. It's important to let the fans out there know about some great fighters they might not always be aware of, or aware of how great they were. So every once in a while when an author sends me a book and I think that he's the right guy, I'll mention his book. And I'm going to do that real quick. And Christmas time, hey, you never know. Maybe you want to buy a boxing book. But here's one. The Night the Referee Hit Back. You heard me mention this author a couple of times, Mike Silver. He's a historian. He's probably one of the top 3 historians probably in the world in boxing. And he knows the sport. And another one here that just got sent to me is Brian Dugan. Hey, you all know this fight. You want to revisit it a little bit, and especially during these COVID times, sit back and do some reading. You have to stay in. You can't go out. Revisit one of the great fights, one of the epic fights, one of the biggest shocking fights of all time. The great Marvin Hagler and Sugar Ray Leonard. And then you could still argue with somebody at home who really won the fight. And then finally, I'll put this up there. This is by a guy that's not as well known as some writers. He writes for Matt's Boxing, the internet website. I'll tell you, he's one of the best writers that I've ever seen. He just knows how to write. He gets to the point. He puts it out there in an honest way, in an understanding way, and he looks for the truth. So he put some of his stories together over the years, the 30-something years that Billy Tibbs has been around boxing and talking to fighters and people in the business. It's enjoyable. So that's 3 reads.
Can you give me the titles and the authors one more time?
Yeah, so we got The Night the Referee Hit Back. I love that title. And the author is Mike Silver.
Got it.
And then we got The Super Fight. That was Hagler and Leonard, of course. Brian Dugan is the author. And then, well, if you like quick essays, I think you're going to love this about, well, I think the greatest sport in the world. And it's by Bill Tibbs. It's Remembering a True Champion and Chatting with the Champ.
Got it.
And that's it. And listen, every once in a while, guys, we try to bring everything that we think makes sense to you good people. And every once in a while we'll do that. We'll mention a book. If you feel like picking it up, you feel like looking at it, you do. If you don't, well, you don't. But this way we're doing a little something that I think is good for the sport to give these writers a little bit of their due for caring about the sport and trying to write about the sport in the proper way.
And those will be some great last-minute Christmas gifts if you have anything left to do this year. Guys, thanks again for being with us. Like I said, we've got one more show in 2020. We're going to preview Luke Campbell and King Ryan Garcia. So thanks for being with us, and one more to go before we put 2020 in the rear view. Thanks, guys. Thanks, Teddy.